many times Gandhi, in different ways, he opposed to the British, right? He felt opposed British. I give you a few examples, maybe. You know, the salt, avec de la mer, tout ça, the process, whatever thing, they do the salt. But by British, it's prefer amen salt from England, where the salt could have been produced in the country, in India. No? So, quand tu fais amen ban salt, tout ça, you can imagine the cost of the salt the Indians have to pay. Par contre, si they produce the salt in their country, it will be cheaper, right? Donc, to oppose this, to stop buying salt from the British, Gandhi organized the Dandi March. This is also known as the Salt March, okay, called the Dandi March. Dandi actually is a place from, so ashram he found in Gujarat. From there, they walked a lot and to Dandi, right? Well, so I say many kilometers. They walked in procession for that. So that is the Dandi March, or the other Salt March. One example to show que Gandhi comment il oppose things. And at d'autres choses aussi, Gandhi opposed, for example, wearing the the cloth being sold by the British. Parce que cloth, they were taking cotton from India. Okay, Amensa in England. In England, zut fait la toile. Zut réenvoyé à ce moment-là in India. And then they are going to sell that. But there's a cost in our labor transportation. It costs a lot. The Indians have to pay for that. So here also, the Fairman Dimuna realized to stop buying the British souvenirs, la toile, etc., and to produce their own cloth. Maybe you don't trouve Gandhi avec un charkha, pas charkha, avec the spinning wheel. I think, I don't know if you know the spinning. Like this, maybe you can see here. You have seen photos like this, right? So this is how the movement actually, Gandhi, the Fairman Indians realized that we had to produce our own cloth, right? Even though the flag of India, in the middle color, the white color, c'est the wheel actually, right? Well, the wheel has beaucoup meaning, beaucoup significance. It can mean the spinning wheel. It can mean the wheel of time. Whatever the meaning, just to tell you, okay? Sorry. This was started by Gandhi. So many people get employment at ce moment-là. Quand they produce their own salt, there will be employment. When they will produce their own cloth, their own thing, like, so there will be employment. Employment pas seulement by men, but also women. They were doing part-time jobs. Auparavant, in the Indian society, you know, women were confined within the four walls. You know the whole story, how it is. So Gandhi, quelque part, à travers ce reforms, you can say, he wanted to bring in the country, create employment even for the women. They were doing part-time jobs. And by this, quand je fais part-time job, c'est bien sûr they are earning something to help their husbands financially. Mais c'est aussi for the economy, right? For the economy. And definitely the aim was to drive away British from India and to boycott everything the British were bringing in the country, right? So this is one example I gave you. So the fact that they produce their own salt, their own cloth, whatever it is, c'est un mouvement qui Gandhi a créé qui nous appelle Swadeshi movement. To produce, it's actually a movement, and say to inspire, to influence Indians to produce their own products. Swadeshi means apna desh, our own country. To produce things in our own country using our own resources, right? So the Swadeshi movement. Either you write with a VOW, that is up to you. What he wanted through Swadeshi, what he wanted people of India, or Indians to do, c'est Swaraj. Swa vidya apna, own, okay. Raj vidya, to govern, self-governance. Okay, so these were tactics, maybe, yeah. These were ways to definitely drive away the British from there and to influence the Indians to become independent. They should not be depending on the British, on the white for this, for anything. They can produce their own stuffs. They can govern as well, right? Bon. Ça, c'est the whole country, how Gandhi affected, influenced them, you know. Now, si nous get aussi the society, specifically the Hindu society, comment Lenin helped as a reformer. He worked a lot, he did a lot for the women of India. One, I told you, say the jobs, employment he created for everyone, but also for women. Right. He was not that kind of person to believe that a woman should be confined within the four walls, that they are the, you know, childbearing machines. Right. He did not believe in that. Kumanunjia, even to Madam, he was always with him in whatever, in processions, you know. Opposing things, doing processions, even the women were doing that. So to improve the condition of women, the reformers who came before him, they already started the work. You know that already. Roy Lin already abolished the sati system. Sorry. Roy already abolished the sati system, even child marriage. Gandhi, Lenin put in regulation on child marriage. He put, you know, marriageable ages for boys, 16 for boys, 25 for boys, 16 for girls, marriageable ages, so as to control that problem of child marriage. But Gandhi aussi didn't continue the same thing. Quand Roy in abolished sati system, but the sati system was abolished, definitely not. Gandhi also worked in that direction, right? And even the widows were given a good life in the society by the previous reformers. So Gandhi leading continue saman travail actually, right? For women, especially education for women, qui bien sûr in Roy, Diana, but also Gandhi, right? Gandhi leading put more emphasis on the emancipation of women, right? That she should work, she should go out, she should fight for her right. And he also refused to call women also the weaker sex. I say the term used, were being used was being used for women to call women, so the weaker sex, he refused to call them. He opposed that. So all that was being continued by Gandhi, the same thing, child marriage, sati, etc. We see independence of India, as we said, and Indian women, Kanuku's emancipation, Indian women, they had an active role in the resistance movement. Resistance movement, c'est un mouvement qui Gandhi, un mouvement il crée. Resistance, you know, ou résister changement, right? Fait comme si the British li amène a new rule, and this rule is for the benefit of the British and not the benefit of the Indian. Là, c'est de faire un resistance movement, de aller strike, de faire un processions, de résister, de pas d'accord avec the change that the British, ou bien the law the British want to impose, right? Even in South Africa, he was always doing that resistance movement, right? He encouraged women to take part in strikes as well, right? So Gandhi gave a new dimension to women's education. To him, educating a woman is educating a whole generation. Parce que c'est the woman, bien sûr, the father has the role, but the major role here is of the mother, of the woman, lui-même qui, en premier, qui les transmit, impart education or knowledge to a child, right? So women thus became part of the legitimate mass with as much rights as men. So he focused aussi sur que women should be getting their due rights. Now we talked about ahimsa, Karela, non-violence, how important this non-violence was for Gandhi, he believed in, no? There is also the truth, one of the teachings of Gandhi, truth. C'est quoi truth? How you define truth? Il y a beaucoup de dimensions pour ça. Littéralement, quand on dit truth, truth means we should not lie, no? Ne pas cause mentir, falsehood. We should not lie. This is definitely one meaning of truth. Like in the Veda, it has been said. Satyam vada dharmam chara, that is, speak the truth and act righteously. Right? Satyam vada. Vada means to say, or to talk, to speak. We have to speak the truth. This is one basic meaning of truth, of Satya. Gandhi gave a whole new dimension of that meaning, of that word truth, right? Truth, in fact, is right knowledge. That is self-enlightenment leading to liberation. That is Gandhi fully inali quelque part dans le livre. Truth, c'est quoi? C'est God. Comment? Lo salatela in une seule vérité. And that is God. Vérité in what? In which terms? We are all here. We are alive today. Tomorrow we'll die. We are not eternal. Right? But God is. He is that ultimate truth. Right? So for Gandhi, truth, il veut dire cause la vérité est non, mais il aussi means God. Right? Quelque part, Gandhi dit ça que, you know, instead of calling God by many names, some will call God like Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Allah, right? Different names of God we have. Why not call God truth? Quand nous appelle God truth, c'est comme si un universal one. Of course, there is one God, il y a beaucoup de monde, and still God qui existait. But c'est nous-mêmes qui n'amène ça va differences hein. Mot bon Dieu, souvent des fois de temps ça maybe quand il y a un petit problème on parle communities, pas tous mot bon Dieu, etc. Non? Pas mettre tout à l'autre débat là, of course. So these are, things, differences created by man, but in fact, it does not exist a difference. And said, you pray him like Krishna, the other one pray him as Allah, as Buddha, whatever name. So instead of this, why not call him the truth? He is the truth, the universal. God is not only for me, for you, for everyone. That is the whole new dimension ki Gandhi donne le mot truth. Because it's the literal meaning of, speaking the truth. He used to say God is truth, but later on, he changed his statement by saying truth is God. Truth means what? As you know, Satyam. We just say truth means Satyam in Sanskrit. And Sat, le mot Sat, means being. We have to understand this. Satya ou bien Satyam, qui veut dire truth, bien sûr. Satyam comes from the word Sat, ou bien Sad. Normalement, les Sad, quand on ajoute other stuff with it, it becomes the Sat. Right? Bon, n'importe comment on appelle Sat ou bien Sat. Right? Sat means which exists. Ou bien comment on servir le terme ici, being, which means being. Et un seul affaire qui existait, God. God is truth, truth is God. Right? So this is the two words, truth and non-violence, which Gandhi put into practice. He lived, actually, he lives in practice it. So this is about Jainism, how he was influenced by the mood of non-violence of the Jainism. So when we are talking about non-violence, say non-violence, as we say, means we don't do violence. But if we have to define violence, what is it? For some people, maybe violence is, I take out a sword and kill someone. This is violence. Yes, it is. But violence is actually far more than that. I was just telling you about the Jains. No? Vous n'êtes pas respire une bactérie, tue une bactérie, vous êtes couvert de la bouche, they don't eat roots because they're going to kill the plants. This is non-violence, right? Violence is aussi like when we lie to someone, it is violence. It's not violence to the person. It's violence to oneself. Si maman cause menti, je ne pas hurt the person. Au fait, je hurt moi-même. Quand nous en colère, right? Quand nous en colère, nous pas hurt, nous peut bien sûr hurt the other person quand nous en colère, no doubt. But mon peut plus hurt moi, right? So these are violence. Exploitation is violence. This is exploitation. This is violence. Emotionally, you can be violent. Right? In an emotional blackmail, I will tell people how you are, etc. This is violence. Ou tu as un moustique, violence, ou la case où tu as un cockroach, is violence. We do lots of violence every day, every time, every moment. But Gandhi, in essay, minimized violence in his life, right? And this is the two words he didn't coin, Satya and ahimsa, truth and non-violence. According to Gandhi, these are the paths, truth, non-violence. These are the paths which leads us to moksha, to the liberation, right? So for him, violence was any act of inflicting pain mentally, physically, verbally, emotionally on anyone, right? So he could not tolerate that. In his articles, he also wrote, you can remember this, violence is the law of the brutes, whereas non-violence is the law of our species. There are different species of life, no? No, we are the human. Mais nous law, c'est quoi? Nous virtue, c'est quoi? Not to be violent, not to be like the tiger, the lion in the jungle. Sinon, it should come and tiger, lion, but we are supposed to be human, to be good, to be non-violent, right? With time, it became the golden rule of his movement, Satyagraha. And Jimun Silipu become a member of Satyagraha. One of the golden rule he has to follow, he has to abide, is to be non-violent, right? Verbally, physically, emotionally, whatever. This is one of the golden rule of Satyagraha. If he fail in that, he is not a member of Satyagraha. He is no more considered a member of Satyagraha. So he strongly believed that a non-violent Satyagrahi Vijay and member of Satyagraha will never fail so much, so that when asked for how long he would teach non-violence, the answer was till everybody is converted. Converted, pas veut dire convertir religion, là, non. Converted, c'est to change ourselves, no? To become a non-violent person, right? This is about truth and non-violence and about Gandhi, right? So I told you about one question already. Give two of Gandhi's teachings. One, you write, say, truth and non-violence. Bon, 2019, c'est 17 question, le Gandhi qui tient là. This is specimen paper 2017, parce que dans ma liste de papier, 2021, pena, question le Gandhi. Who knows this year? Yeah. So what are the two ideas? What two ideas are described by the term Satyagraha? What are the two things described? Je te rappelle ça, Satyagraha, son meaning c'est quoi? Truth, force, right? Si vous mettez truth avec deuxième force, and then point, vous pouvez mettre ensemble aussi truth, force, ou bien, as I told you, love, force as well. So you need to know how to define le mot Satyagraha. Si un élève lui met this truth here, tout ça, il peut gagner this n point. Parce que Satyagraha veut dire truth, force, non? Ou bien love, force. Donc, vous mettez ensemble, soit vous mettez séparé, truth and force, whatever. Vous venez dans les deux mots là-bas. So, you will get the marks, right? L'autre, describe briefly one important event in the life of Mahatma Gandhi. One event. Pour moi, ce qui vient dans ma tête, one event, c'est being thrown out of the train. There are many events happened in his life. you can write about anything event happened in his life, right? For example, traveling to England, even though journeys abroad were forbidden by his caste, and his mother made him to promise, the three things. Ça, c'est N qui ou écrire. Ou pas écrire tous les trois, là, hein. Okay? You don't try the three. Parce qu'il y a one event. Bon, comment vous gagnez trois points là? One event, c'est on recognize the event in his life. On dit quand il tient pour travel, on gagne un point. Et ça, l'autre deux points là, comment on peut gagner? Quand on peut expliquer comment. So, at that time in India, it was forbidden for foreign travel was forbidden. Et aussi, ce maman was made him promise, the three things, right? So you write this, you get your mark. We are traveling in the first class train. He was thrown out because of his color of the skin. That is another thing. You get 3 marks. Another event to make salt, the Dandi March. You can write that also. Okay, so you write one only according to Manu, one. Papa, you want to impress the marker, no? Papa, not impress there. Fine. Explain how Mahatma Gandhi put his teachings into practice. Est-ce qu'il met en pratique? Oui, il met en pratique. Explain how he put his teachings into practice, and this is 5 marks, right? Bon, premièrement, vous devez identify the teachings, non? Il y en a beaucoup à faire au cas écrit. Au cas écrit, le truth and non-violence. Okay. How far he was non-violent. He was when I was talking about independence of India, where he signed for the independence of India. So he did not opt for war, no, because he was non-violent. So il met en pratique. And many times, quand souvent followers même, okay, quand souvent followers qui avec lui, je pratique violence in any way, n'importe qui façon je pratique violence, Gandhi lit God fasting. On appelle ça maun vrat in Hindi, maun vrat. That is, he does not speak to anyone. Et quand il parcourt avec the followers, c'est the followers who suffer, pas Gandhi, right? So this is also one way to explain comment il put into practice, right? Even the protest he was doing, c'était un peaceful protest, il pas end up with violence. Just to tell you, at that time, Kuchina Gandhi in India, there were also Bhagat Singh. Maybe you have heard. Bhagat Singh avec ce des camarades qui appelle Rajguru. On mettait violently parce que they servi violence. 3 major people at that time. Il y en a beaucoup, bien sûr. Il y en a Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, avec Sukhdev. Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Raj. Yes, these are the 3 persons. Mainly Sukhdev and Bhagat Singh, maybe. These people were fighting for the independence of India. That is a good cause. Bien bon. But they were violent. Bhagat Singh was hanged at the age of Bhagat Singh was hanged. Give me 1 minute, please. So I was saying that Bhagat Singh, he was hanged at the age of 23. Very more than 23 ans. Qui faire? Because he was violent. Il était dans la cour, maybe you get film or something. Il était dans la cour et il faisait un bomb there where many people were injured to some. So he was hanged, right? So that is one way to just tell you que Gandhi, il met en pratique actually what he taught, his teachings, même il met en pratique, malgré que there were other people there at that time, Bhagat Singh and all. Gandhi parti content Bhagat Singh pas content Gandhi. Content in the sense, I hate them, of course, but because of their way of doing things. Gandhi was non-violent, Bhagat Singh was violent. Right? So these are few stuffs you can write. And you know the basic, the thing is, Gandhi himself and the fellows, the Indians, they suffered. No, they suffered discrimination, they suffered racism, right? And if we see what Bhagavad Gita says, we must not suffer. Quand Andimun pe torture us, we should not stay silent and suffer. Okay, this is in the Bhagavad Gita, said by Krishna. Qui fait? Parce qu'il y a au peles du monde fait violence là, and you're suffering, right? Ou capable in a certain rebellious attitude coming, but ou be suppress women, right? But we should fight for our rights. Et Gandhi in fait ça. Being fight for the right, yes, but non-violently, bien sûr. Okay. Bon, il y a beaucoup de dimensions qui sont capables d'amener sa question-là. It's up to you, right? I guess you have this. If you don't, please tell me, I'll send you again. The other question, great religious teachers base their teaching only on personal experiences. And là-dedans, il mentionné dans la question-là que Oubizan refer to the life and the work of Gandhi. Si Pati écrit à sa bout-là, c'est qu'il me highlight to refer to the life of Gandhi. Si pas écrit à ha, et dans sa bout-là, Oubizan involve two reformers là-dedans. Right? Parce qu'il n'est pas mentionne anyone. Now, since Lin mentioned Mahatma Gandhi, so you use, of course, Mahatma Gandhi only, right? So great religious teachers base their teaching on personal experiences. Yes, to some extent, based on personal experiences, it capable to base their teaching. Gandhi. Kumanin capable in like non-violent, become the father of the Indian nation. Also experience. Lin vive, throwing out of the train in South Africa. Lin trouve the man fellow man, the Indians, how they were suffering and all. To ça c'est experiences. Mais aussi religious, maybe you can say scriptures, ou bien the experiences of others. Pas oublier l'utilisateur là, il peut lire livre, Bhagavad Gita, Quran, Bible, Leo Tolstoy, ce livre, David Thoreau. Non? Il peut lire quoi? The experiences of others. Donc tout ça, il fait the person créer son own teaching. Practice this the same. Right? So you decide your route, si vous dites que based on personal experience only, okay. If not, les deux. Normalement, c'est les deux, bien sûr. Right? Mais si vous just stick to personal experience, you can. Right? You can, provided, as I say, you justify your answer. right? So this will be for today. Go through this. If you want to write your answer, you write, please. Go to this through this marking scheme. I can send you again if you don't have it. And revise. Yeah. Next week, we are going to do revision